Walk into any gym supplement store, and you're surrounded by promises. 30-day transformations, shredded abs, explosive power, nitric oxide pumps. Most of what you're looking at exists for one reason: to be sold. The supplement industry runs on hype cycles, proprietary blends, and a carefully managed hope that this product, this time, will be the one that changes everything. It rarely is, but there's an outlier. Creatine monohydrate is a rare gym supplement that survived decades of research scrutiny, regulatory debates, and market trends, not because it promised magic, but because it does something measurably real. It increases intramuscular phosphocreatine stores, which supports short-burst energy production during repeated high-intensity efforts like lifting, sprinting, and explosive training. That's not hype. That's mechanism. This isn't about trashing every other supplement or pretending creatine is perfect for everyone. It's about understanding why creatine stands apart in terms of evidence, depth, consistency, and the fact that it's almost impossible to fake. If you're healthy and considering creatine, consult with a healthcare professional first, especially if you have pre-existing conditions. Now let's talk about why creatine is the only supplement in the fitness world that doesn't need theatrics to justify its existence. It actually changes human biology. Most gym supplements sell a feeling, a tingle, a rush, a pump that fades by the time you leave the parking lot. Creatine sells a fuel system inside your muscle tissue. Roughly 95% of your body's creatine sits waiting, mostly in form of phosphocreatine. When you push hard during a heavy set or an explosive sprint, your muscles burn through ATP, the immediate energy currency that powers contraction. ATP gets used up fast. Phosphocreatine steps in by donating a phosphate group to help regenerate ATP rapidly, giving you the ability to sustain repeated high-output bursts without waiting for slower energy pathways to catch up. This isn't theoretical. When you supplement with creatine, intramuscular creatine and phosphocreatine levels measurably increase. The International Society of Sports Nutrition's position stand confirms this. Creatine supplementation raises muscle creatine stores and can improve high-intensity exercise performance and training adaptations. The NIH Office of Dietary Supplements notes the same effect. Enhanced performance during repeated short bursts of intense activity, typically efforts lasting up to about 2.5 minutes. This is why creatine aligns perfectly with strength training, powerlifting, sprinting, and interval work. If your training lives in repeated explosive sets, the biology lines up with the demand. If you're running marathons, it's far less relevant. That specificity is part of its credibility. Creatine doesn't pretend to do everything. It does one thing in one system, and it does it consistently enough that major scientific bodies have spent decades confirming it. Most supplements disappear under that kind of scrutiny. Creatine got stronger. It survived every hype cycle. Creatine was identified as a compound in 1832 by French chemist Michel Eugène Chevreul, who isolated it from meat, hence the name, tied to the Greek word for flesh. For over a century, it was an obscure subject of metabolism research. Early 20th century studies suggested that ingested creatine could increase muscle creatine content, but this remained largely academic until the 1990s. That's when creatine monohydrate exploded into mainstream fitness culture, with athletes openly crediting it for performance gains. The timing mattered. The 90s were an era of supplement chaos. Fat burners with ephedrine, andro supplements that skirted legality, nitric oxide boosters that promised vascularity through questionable mechanisms. Most of those products either got banned, debunked, or quietly reformulated into irrelevance. Creatine stayed. It stayed because the mechanism was simple enough to measure and the effects were consistent enough to replicate. When researchers tested it, muscle creatine stores went up. When athletes used it, repeated high-intensity performance improved. There was no regulatory scandal, no mass recall, no moment when the research community collectively said, "Wait, this doesn't actually work." The supplement industry has tried for decades to create the next creatine, some new ingredient with similar credibility and staying power. Nothing has matched it. The history of fitness supplements is a graveyard of miracle compounds that burned bright for 2 years and vanished. Creatine has been commercially available for over 3 decades and remains the benchmark. That longevity isn't luck. It's the difference between a product that works and a product that just works until people notice it doesn't. It was never sexy, so it had to be real. Creatine has a marketing problem. It's boring. It doesn't give you a pre-workout tingle that makes you feel like you're vibrating out of your skin. It doesn't create a skin-tightening pump that makes you take mirror selfies between sets. For many people, it doesn't feel like anything at all. That's a disaster for a supplement trying to survive on placebo theater. But it's exactly why creatine had to be legitimate to stay relevant. Flashy supplements rely on immediate sensory feedback to create the illusion of effectiveness. A tingling sensation from beta-alanine, a caffeine rush, a nitric oxide product that makes your veins pop for 20 minutes. Those effects are real, but they're not the same as long-term performance improvements or measurable physiological adaptation. Creatine offers neither drama nor instant gratification. What it offers is a quiet, cumulative increase in your capacity to perform repeated high-intensity work. That's not something you feel in the moment. It's something you notice over weeks when your training volume goes up, when you hit an extra rep, when you recover faster between sets. This is the psychological genius of creatine survival. It couldn't coast on hype because it had nothing to hype. It had to justify itself through results that showed up in performance metrics and study data, not in the 15 minutes after you drank it. The supplement industry has spent decades trying to make everything feel like something because feeling sells better than evidence. Creatine is the opposite of that model. It survived because it didn't need a stage effect. It just needed to work when you weren't paying attention. It's too cheap to be a lie. The economics of creatine reveals something uncomfortable about the rest of the supplement industry. Creatine monohydrate is one of the least expensive supplements you can buy. A few months' supply often costs less than a single tub of a trendy pre-workout blend. That price point is a problem for companies that depend on high margins and recurring novelty to drive profits. When a product is cheap and effective, the only way to justify premium pricing is to change the story. This is why you see creatine wrapped in proprietary blends, repackaged as advanced formulas, or bundled with a dozen other ingredients that may or may not do anything. The strategy is simple. Take something that works on its own, make it harder to isolate, and charge more for the package. Creatine monohydrate resists this because it's been studied so extensively in isolation that consumers can just buy it by itself. There's no mystery ingredient to protect, no secret ratio, no patented delivery system that justifies a 300% markup. It's a commodity, and commodities are hard to spin into premium products without gimmicks. This is why creatine's low cost is part of its credibility. Scam supplements need high prices to create the illusion of exclusivity and effectiveness. They need you to believe that if it's expensive, it must be powerful. Creatine operates in reverse. It's cheap because the raw material is abundant, the production is straightforward, and the evidence base is so deep that companies can't justify inflating the price through marketing alone. When a supplement's profit margin depends on convincing you it's worth more than it costs, you should ask why. Creatine never had to answer that question. It was already too cheap to be a lie. It works on beginners and veterans. Some supplements only work on beginners. They coincide with newbie gains, ride the wave of early adaptation, and then quietly stop delivering once the user's training matures. Creatine doesn't follow that script. Its effectiveness isn't tied to your experience level or your training age. It's tied to your muscle's capacity to store creatine and your activity's reliance on the phosphocreatine energy system. This creates a consistency that most supplements can't replicate. Beginners see improvements. Experienced lifters see improvements. The magnitude might vary based on individual factors, but the mechanism doesn't stop working because you've been training for 5 years. That said, creatine isn't universal. People enter supplementation with different baseline muscle creatine stores, often influenced by diet and genetics. Those with lower baseline stores, often individuals who consume little meat, tend to experience larger increases when they start supplementing. This is sometimes framed as responders versus non-responders, but it's more accurate to say your starting line matters. If your stores are already near the upper limit, you won't see the same boost as someone starting from a deficit. This doesn't mean creatine failed. It means biology has limits, and creatine respects them. What makes this consistency important is the contrast with supplements that seem to only work during specific windows. Products marketed as beginner-friendly or advanced formulas are often just capitalizing on natural training phases. Creatine doesn't need that narrative crutch. It works across experience levels because it targets a fundamental energy pathway that doesn't care how long you've been lifting. It's the same mechanism in a novice and a veteran. That kind of reliability is rare in the supplement industry, and it's part of why creatine remains a standard decades after it entered the market. Consistency across populations is hard to fake. It doesn't need a stack. Walk through the supplement aisle and you'll notice a pattern. Very few products are sold as complete on their own. Pre-workouts need intra-workouts. Intra-workouts need post-workouts. Fat burners need metabolism boosters. Testosterone boosters need estrogen blockers. The industry thrives on stacking, the idea that no single product is enough. So you need a system, a protocol, a carefully orchestrated sequence of products to get results. This isn't always dishonest. Some ingredients do complement each other, but stacking also creates a convenient economic structure. When no product stands alone, the consumer is locked into buying multiple items indefinitely. Creatine breaks this model because it works in isolation. You don't need to take it with a proprietary blend. You don't need a specific timing protocol to activate it. You don't need a cycling strategy or a post-cycle therapy to maintain results. You take creatine monohydrate. Your muscle creatine stores go up, and if you're training in a way that uses a phosphocreatine system, you benefit. That simplicity is threatening to the stack-driven model because it exposes how much of supplement marketing is about creating dependency on complexity. If one product works on its own, why do you need 12 others? Creatine's independence also makes it harder to obscure. When something is bundled into a pre-workout blend with 15 other ingredients, you can't isolate what's actually driving any perceived benefit. When you take creatine by itself and track performance, you know exactly what you're evaluating. That transparency is rare in an industry that profits from ambiguity. Creatine doesn't need a stack because it doesn't need to justify its existence through association with other products. It stands alone because it can. The industry can't improve it. For decades, supplement companies have tried to upgrade creatine. They've introduced creatine ethyl ester, creatine hydrochloride, buffered creatine, micronized creatine, and a dozen other variations marketed as superior to the original monohydrate form. The pitch is always the same: better absorption, fewer side effects, enhanced bioavailability, no loading phase required. It sounds compelling. The problem is that when researchers actually test these claims head-to-head, creatine monohydrate keeps winning. One well-known study directly compared creatine monohydrate to creatine ethyl ester, a form that was heavily marketed as more effective, and found that the ethyl ester version was not as effective at increasing muscle creatine content or improving performance and body composition. The industry kept trying to sell the upgrade. The data kept dragging everyone back to the original. This reveals something crucial about creatine's credibility. When a supplement can't be improved despite years of effort and significant financial incentive, it suggests the original formula was already optimized. Creatine monohydrate has the deepest evidence base, the most consistent performance across studies, and the longest track record of real-world use. The new and improved versions aren't necessarily scam, but they're often solutions to problems that don't exist or improvements that can't be demonstrated in controlled research. The supplement industry depends on novelty to justify higher prices and renewed marketing campaigns. Creatine monohydrate resists that cycle because it's hard to sell a new version of something when the old version remains a gold standard in peer-reviewed research. This is why you still see monohydrate as the benchmark in scientific literature, and why major sports nutrition organizations continue to reference it as the primary form worth discussing. The industry tried to innovate past it. The evidence wouldn't let them. It never promised to be magic. The strongest evidence for creatine's credibility isn't what it claims to do. It's what it openly admits it doesn't do. Creatine supplementation is well established for improving repeated high-intensity, short-duration efforts, strength training, sprinting, explosive intervals. But the NIH Office of Dietary Supplements is explicit. Creatine offers limited value for endurance activities. If you're running long distances at steady pace, the phosphocreatine system isn't the limiting factor. So creatine won't help much. This honesty is rare in the supplement industry, where products are often marketed as universal solutions regardless of context. Creatine also doesn't work equally for everyone. Some individuals see significant performance improvements. Others see modest gains. A small percentage may see minimal response, often because their baseline muscle creatine stores were already near saturation. This variation is normal, but it's not how most supplements are sold. Most products imply universal effectiveness because acknowledging limitations undermines the marketing narrative. Creatine's transparency about its boundaries makes it more trustworthy, not less. It means the research community has been honest about what the data shows and what it doesn't. Even major regulatory bodies have been selective in approving creatine-related health claims. The European Food Safety Authority, for example, has rejected certain cognitive function claims for creatine supplementation, signaling that the evidence isn't there yet. That rejection isn't a failure. It's proof that the system works. When a supplement's claims are evaluated rigorously and some are rejected, it means the approved claims are more likely to be legitimate. Creatine's credibility comes from its willingness to be tested, to have its limitations documented, and to survive that scrutiny without collapsing. Magic doesn't need evidence. Real interventions do. Creatine never promised to be magic, which is exactly why it's still here. The fitness industry runs on the idea that the next product will unlock the next level. That mindset isn't entirely wrong. Supplements can support training, but it creates a market where effectiveness matters less than novelty and hope sells better than evidence. Creatine monohydrate is the exception. It survived decades of research scrutiny, regulatory review, and market evolution, not because it reinvented itself every few years, but because it didn't need to. It works through a measurable, replicable biological mechanism. It's been studied extensively in hundreds of trials. It's cheap enough that companies can't hide behind premium pricing. It's honest about what it does and what it doesn't. That combination of evidence, consistency, simplicity, and transparency is almost impossible to find in the supplement industry. This isn't about turning creatine into the only supplement worth considering. It's about recognizing what makes something credible in a market flooded with exaggeration. If you want to understand why most supplements fail the scrutiny test, start by understanding why creatine passes it. The difference isn't subtle. It's structural. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of how to evaluate supplement claims beyond the marketing, share it with someone who's tired of guessing. And if you want more myth-busting fitness science that cuts through the industry noise, subscribe. We're just getting started.